We are the one, the light in the dark. One heart, one world, one spark. We are the one, together we rise. One dream, one voice, one sky.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Empowered Across the World. And this is our podcast. And I have amazing hosts with me today. I have Megan from South Africa. I have Raksha from Miami. And I have Jackie from Arizona, but her heart is in Africa. And I'm Carol Witt, and I am in Florida, and my heart is global, along with Jackie's. Anyway, we have an amazing guest today, and we are so excited to hear what she is all about and have her inspire many of us and many others. And Erin, please come join us.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, so Erin, share your story with us. Tell us what you're about.
So I come from Southern Alberta in Canada, and I do ADHD coaching. I consider myself an ADHD transformation coach. And how that came about is I started off my coaching career not quite knowing what I was going to go into, but I knew I'd always wanted to do this type of work. So my background actually is in sports administration. I did that for many, many years. And I worked with some Olympic organizations, and in the nonprofit sector, life is very different and they throw you into all sorts of situations. So I learned how to get my feet real dirty real quick. And it was like, sink or swim, baby, you can do this. So bobsleigh was one of the places I was, bobsleigh Canada. And I have ridden a bobsled track, just so you know. And so I ended up doing that for about 10 years. And then I got into the world of social work. And my heart had always been for helping people. And when I was working my last job, it was actually for seniors. And I absolutely loved that type of work. I kind of have an old soul. And eventually, the stress really wore me down to the point where I took a stress leave. And I didn't know that it would be the reason that I ended up leaving my career and in the employment world. And it was December of 2019, right before the world changed drastically in March of 2020. And my husband, we had done a lot of sacrificing type of stuff for his work. And I just realized I was in my late 30s. I was like, it's my turn. I had gone through some serious mental health struggles, I'll say. I lived with postpartum depression twice. I overcame quite a bit. And when I was diagnosed with ADHD, I was 35 years old. And to be honest with you, ladies, I thought my life was a big hot mess and it was just destined to be that way until I received that diagnosis. And long story short, I spent a little bit of time kind of in mode around that. And then I really stepped into an empowerment stance, which is why I'm here today because I morphed that into coaching. And so, from a health and life coaching background, I now really stepped into transformation. I did a leadership program in 2022 for 5 months. I call it the leadership boot camp, pardon me, that turned me inside out. It was with a program called Boston Breakthrough Academy. And I learned how to go from being a victim to a victor. I started to adopt all the leadership principles. I get to step into this. I get to unload my dishwasher rather than I have to. I get to do this as a mom. I get to do this as a business owner, and I get to serve my community. And I really always had a heart for community. I'll tell you, I grew up in a village, ladies, of 150 people. 150 people in a small farm town, and everyone knew everyone. And so I have such a heart for community, and I love the online space because I get to meet amazing women like yourself every single day and network globally. And I think it is its own beautiful community. And I think empowerment is rampant when you find it in the right circles. There's an awful lot of complaining online, let's just say it, but I don't play that game. And I love to just step in and see like what the needs are and then serve in that capacity. So my business now, it's called Evolving Life Coaching. This is my 5th year in operation. And I have had various niches. I finally found my space in the ADHD world. And I want to support women, not just from that standpoint of, hey, let's, figure out how to focus and all of these trigger words. I want to take it much deeper. And I'm actually using the lens of let's engage our families more and learn how to delegate to our kids and have stronger connections in our marriage, as well empower women with ADHD to understand there's nothing truly wrong with them. In fact, it's actually an incredible place to be because of their creative superpower. And without sounding cliche, everyone says ADHD is a superpower. I will say that I read this book, ADHD is Awesome, recently by Penn Holderness from the Holderness family. And everything they talk about in there is a very well-researched book, by the way. I love that brand recognition around it because I truly do feel like it's awesome. When I'm coaching with my clients in sessions, I can remember books that I read in 2002, and I'll have them on my bookshelf, no doubt. And I'll like, hey, hold on a sec. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I'll go find the book, and I'm like, this is why I read this. So I can remember ridiculously crazy things like that, but I can't remember if I turned my straightener off 5 minutes ago. Okay, so that's just one thing. I love meeting other women with ADHD and men. And it doesn't matter if it's a diagnosis or not. If we have the symptoms around it and we have the behaviors around it, I can usually tell. But what's really awesome is that we can put pieces together that other people necessarily don't see. My husband is an analyst. He's the most linear man you ever did meet. We're complete opposites, but we balance each other out. And I find that I'm attracting clients that have often felt there's something really wrong with me. And I'm like, listen, you have a busy, beautiful brain. There's nothing wrong with you. In fact, it's meant to be. And from my faith's perspective, I'm like, listen, God made you this way for a reason. And if you want to step into that victor mentality around it, I'm here to support you with that. And furthermore, I think that all of us are meant to connect and be one in that capacity. So one of my favorite things to do, as if you're in Facebook world with me, I love to just hop in your messenger and literally say, you've got to meet Megan from South Africa. Oh man. And I will just connect them because I love when people do that for me. And I just think that the online space is such a beautiful place to be when it's used appropriately. And I really, really love seeing women succeed, especially ones who've gone through any sort of major struggles. I know for me, my 20s, I call them a dumpster fire. I was very unconfident. I was with the wrong person. I had, I was, for lack of a better word, masking myself and my ADHD to the world so that I was showing up very inauthentic. And when that happens, your body knows it, your mind knows it, and stress was rampant. And now I'm in my 40s. I'm in the best shape of my life. I have the best health habits going on. And I have the ability to say that without feeling like, oh, that's breaking. I can be grateful for where I'm at and humble about it, but I can also stand strong in saying, like, these are the shifts and transformations that I've made in my life. And the best part is I'm raising 2 girls. My daughters are 13 and 9, and I see in them my behavioral changes. And, we're coming into just teenagerhood right now, and it's fascinating to see. But guys, my kids, they're baking and cooking and doing laundry, and they step up. And my youngest daughter, she'll go outside and pick up the dog mess in the backyard without being asked. And so there's all these wins that I'm noticing as a parent right now. I'm 43. And so that has been such a gift in this respect. I love watching my clients transform, but I got to tell you, seeing my kids step into that, and they're athletes, they lead on their teams, and they just have a really great attitude. And I'm like, I did not have that at this age. So I have no idea how long I've been talking, but
Fine. Keep.
that's part of my story. I know an awful lot about postpartum depression. I'm very passionate about mental wellness and advocacy because I was a social worker, but I also see it from the lens of maternal health. And I went through it undiagnosed for quite a while. I also had a childbirth experience with my oldest daughter, I'll just say it, that lasted 5 days. And I was in labor for 105 hours. It was over Christmas
Mm,
of 2011, 2012, and I almost died giving birth to my daughter.
mm,
And when that happened, I didn't recognize that my body and my mind would go through such a dramatic shift, but it took 9 months for that postpartum to hit. So when I see new mothers, especially in my community, I'm always kind of watching for that because most people are like, oh, it's going to happen right after you have the baby. In this respect, it didn't. And I just know that there's an awful lot of people that are struggling with that, especially during everything that we experienced in the last 5 years. It's hard to believe it's 5 years ago. We all went through COVID, but there was a lot of isolation. And so, as a sociologist person, I'm always thinking about, what's it like for them, you know? So, how can we stand together and form bonds to really support our local communities? I'm very involved in my church, and that has brought me so much joy to be spearheading something that is really all about the hands and feet of Jesus, like doing the work. We actually have an organization here called My City Care, and we take on looking after caring for our city. And
mm,
what I'm super excited to be a part of is a housing project here locally. A church community has stepped in and taken on housing, and we're also helping those single moms who are in a housing insecure position. And so we're just stepping in where we can. We do things messy, and
mm,
I just love meeting new people who can see the vision behind that. I would say I'm a very visionary leader, and I just love to use resources and connect people from all walks of life. That's one of my favorite things. And especially in circles like this online. I mean, I'm in the presence of some amazing leaders right here. I feel very fortunate. And I just met you, but I can already tell that, what you guys stand for and what you value. And the fact that you choose to give people like myself a voice, it's really incredible. So thank you.
wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Erin. Thank you for supporting, I think, a community. ADHD is not a community that's supported a lot. Thank
Yeah.
you for supporting that. Um, Listen, we all need support. We all need a community that gets behind us. And
Mhm.
I'm so happy that you found us. Thank you, Megan, for sharing Erin with us. So, Erin, I think we have a couple questions. Do we have questions?
Yes, you yes, you do.
Okay.
Somehow my hand keeps on taking itself out. Maybe I'm
Oh,
not supposed to speak today. Maybe that's what St. Patty's telling me. But I do. I love all the different areas that you have identified. And these are things we don't really talk about. We just say, oh, that's just life. And we brush it away.
Mhm.
So I love the fact that you said postpartum doesn't always come right in after having the child. It can be a delayed reaction, and many people don't realize that.
Mhm.
Um, and it creates a lot of stress in a relationship. So
Absolutely.
the reason I say that is I didn't know I had it until I had it,
Yeah.
right? And it's like nobody understood what I was dealing with. They just thought I didn't want my kids.
Mm.
But they didn't realize that I felt isolated because I was a new mom in the US, didn't have a support system that I had back home.
Mm.
And it almost felt like I can't do this alone. And my spouse wasn't that supportive, so it didn't go much anywhere
Mm.
that it needed to go. Um, so for that, I want to acknowledge you. Thanks for being a stand for that.
Thank you
And
for sharing.
ADHD does go undetected. People just think you like doing multiple projects. Um,
Yep.
okay, Carol, don't go there. But it really can be crippling because you have so many ideas, so many good ideas, and you just don't complete them, right? So it also has an impact on how you feel. What are some of the tools that you use for people like that? And what are maybe like two or three signs that can kind of tell you this person is dealing with this? Because the age group that you mentioned that you're in, we didn't get diagnosed for these. Our GPs and stuff didn't know that that's what it was. They just thought of it, oh, they're just playing up.
Hmm.
So what are some of the things that we can be aware of, and to have a conversation and say, hey, have you thought, you may want to kind of
Yeah.
get a second opinion?
I mean, s- when it's personal self-awareness, I think if they are not judging it and they actually take a step back, first of all, you have to take a step back before you're just like, oh, it's just my pattern, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to start with one simple. What's on your bedside table? Do you have 6 books? Do you have multiple things going on? Are you trying to consume a ton of different topics at once? Is your house looking like you tried to like declutter one closet, but it led you to 4 different ones? And so now there's stuff kind of in all of the other areas of your home. Do you find it challenging to, you could do something in 3 minutes, but it's just this kind of, I don't know, it evades you. Like it keeps you up at night thinking about this one task that you want to do. I use the example of, putting my vacuum away that was in the middle of my floor for the longest time. And it was almost like this game I would play with myself. I'd like walk by it. What is up with this? Just take the vacuum and wrap the cord around it and put it in the closet. But it's just these things that we just think it's too hard to do because our mind is so flooded and overwhelmed. And so you can ask your family members, do you do you notice some things about me that I'm not managing my thoughts in a way that's kind of streamlined, right? There's a lot of factors at play in a conversation, talking over, or also the other side of it, allowing other people to talk over you. That happened for me a lot. I was just feeling so self-conscious that I wasn't worth talking about, or like my conversation didn't matter unless I was really safe with someone. So I
Yeah.
would let people talk over me, and then I would just smile and nod and be like, oh, yeah, All through school, I struggled with math in that capacity. I would just pretend that I knew what was going on. There's a lot of pretend going on with people with ADHD. And when I was diagnosed, my therapist at the time, I was doing EMDR therapy, and I just joked one day. I said, oh, that's just my ADD talking. And she closed her book, uncrossed her legs, looked me straight in the face, and goes, Erin, have you ever considered that? And I had said to her at that time, I said, you know what, I have, but I was too afraid to say it out loud.
Yeah.
And that was my start because I was like, oh, it's not just me. And then I started to read books. And I'll tell you, ladies, the most pivotal book for me was You Mean You're Not Lazy, Stupid, or Crazy? There's a book called that. And I remember reading it,
Really?
and I was floored that this was other people's lives. And I remember having those moments of just bawling my eyes out reading this book. It's like when you read a Brene Brown book and it just hits you. You're like, is she talking right to me? And
Mm.
you're just like, the tears. When you start to crave those types of personal development resources is another sign that I think I notice a lot of my clients will reach out to me. They're like, I'm really thinking that this is maybe what's going on for me, or a friend has the courtesy to say, hey, you might want to check this out. And they'll end up in my group or they'll see some of my stuff. I
Mm.
wrote a story poem about my experience with ADHD, and I could share it with you ladies at some point. But I finally had the courage to share it publicly the last little bit. But I think that's one of the keys. I don't know if that answers your question.
It
But
does, it helps a lot. And I guess we look for the same triggers in men.
yeah, we look for the same triggers in men. The only thing is I noticed that they're a little bit more reserved around it. They've done their research, but they're not telling their friends about it, of course. They're not necessarily wanting to own up to it as easily.
Mhm.
I have worked with some male clients and they don't want to dive too much into it. It's more about the behaviors rather than the label. Whereas I think with women, it's a little bit easier. The conversation is getting a little more, not because it's like a TikTok thing, that's not necessarily my generation, but even YouTube, and just in general, a lot of people in their 60s and 70s I've talked to that are just blown away that this could be a different way
Well,
of
that's why,
understanding.
sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, go ahead.
Finish. The reason I asked that question is I know a wonderful lady who's in her late 70s and she's created a card deck on ADHD
Oh,
because she herself got diagnosed when she retired at 65.
yeah,
And then she made this her mission to go about it. So I will connect you to. Um,
sure.
but it's something that our generation, we were not aware of it. We were just like more like rambunctious children that we nobody could control, right? Um, but not realizing that this is a process that needs to happen.
Yeah,
And Carol will agree, most likely, that a lot of this is to do with the chemicals that our bloodstream is carrying.
I agree.
So her and I are very passionate about a certain product, and we can share that with you. But we've found that it makes an impact and a
Hmm.
positive impact. Um,
Amazing.
so it's like starting that conversation, having you be alert. So I'm glad you're supporting moms in doing this.
Hmm. Thank
That's
you.
where the first line of impact is, right?
Yeah, thank you for that, Raksha. And there is an awful lot of shame that goes along with it because they just feel like I should be along. I actually did a workshop at one point called Stop Shoulding on Yourself
Mhm.
because I think that's the biggest thing I did forever is like, I should be farther along. I should be able to make my
Mm.
bed and do the dishes in the same morning. I should be able to, blah, blah, blah. And when you see the comparisonitis that goes on, I'll call it, and online especially, you're just like, how can I not get my, poop in a group here? And why is everyone else ahead of me? And yet they don't understand that that same person who may have ADHD is in a room and charming everyone in their space and is having conversations with that person that maybe is more analytical but is in the background, not saying a lot. And everyone has their thing, right? So, inattention, it's interesting in this book. ADHD is awesome. Dr. Edward Hallowell talks about it's not necessarily attention deficiency or, sorry, deficit. It has to do with having too much attention for too many things. And so it's just prioritizing that. And so if we can change the conversation, they're trying to right now around that. I love his work. And there's an awful lot of really beautiful um, mentors and speakers in this. What I would say is caution yourself, people. Don't follow everyone on TikTok and think they know a ton about ADHD. A lot of it's clickbait. And
Yes.
it's young people having fun, don't get me wrong. But from like a leadership standpoint and coaching and all that, really go to the sources that know what they've experienced and explored.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Erin, so I have a question for you. I said,
Mhm.
you know, inside of your journey, because this is a journey for you,
Yeah, yeah.
inside of your journey, where have you seen how mindset actually makes a difference for you? Like your mindset,
Every
your,
single day.
yes.
Um, I now am able to take a step back instead of reacting. I respond.
Yeah.
The pause is huge. Seeing my clients go through that. I have one client I've been working with for 3 years. She's
Mm.
also ADHD, and she's like, the biggest thing is I don't react anymore, and Seeing how I parent is a huge transformation, but my health habits, I think, are a big one. Learning how to go to the gym first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Actually getting out of bed when it's 30 below 0 Celsius in
Yeah.
January.
Oh, yeah.
Mindset plays a part in every aspect of it. Catching your automatic negative thoughts, my coach calls them ants. Um, and then just really asking those questions like, what is true and what is not true about that?
Yes.
And then aligning yourself with really beautiful people. I mean, I really have incredible friends. My bestie is in Prince George, BC. She's another coach. She's been coaching 14 years, and we just hold the bucket for each other all the time. Mindset is the only way that we move forward. Um, you can't do it any other way. So when people will say, "Oh, just mindset stuff," I'm like, "Yeah, it's kind of critical."
It's critical.
Your behaviors are not going to change
Yeah.
unless you change those thoughts up there, ladies.
That's
So,
exactly right. And inside of what you act on.
yes,
And
or
our mindset,
inaction.
it has us act on things or not act on things.
Yep.
And yeah, I am sure you have gone through, you are seeing the mindsets that are stopping you, the mindsets that
Oh,
are
yeah.
moving you forward. Yeah, so happy that you are doing what you're doing, because there are so many people out there that, just like Raksha said, don't even know why they
Yeah.
have all this crazy thoughts and these crazy things going on for themselves inside themselves. And you have answers for them, and you have uh, a space for them to really and truly uh, rise up and own their power and own who they
Oh,
are, and
yeah.
their greatness. And thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Jackie?
Yeah, I admire you for all you're doing, because there aren't that many people that focus on those areas, and so that makes it a lot easier for you to be able to complete their coaching.
Thank you.
And I think organizers would be a great alliance for you, because they're looking at it from a different angle, and they're not really probably looking at it as deeply as you are. So I think that would be good. My question for you is, what do you want to do in the future with this, and what do you need to make that happen?
Oh, I love those questions. Thank you.
Mhm.
You know, ladies, I have tried out the blogging space and obviously social media, and God's got it on my heart right now. Like, it's time for a podcast. And so, right this season, right now, I'm actually, I can ask you this question. I'm looking at calling it Unshackled, because I unshackled myself in every way. It was part of my faith journey, but it led me to understanding my true authenticity, and I stood in my power. And so, anyway, I'm going the want to go the YouTube route and podcasting. I love speaking, and I never have fear in front of the camera. But if you give me a blank Google Doc and you're like, "Hey, put this copy together," I'm like, "Okay, I'm working on that." And I love writing. Don't get me wrong, but I'd rather do that. I'd love to be on stages, Jackie. I really would. I see myself speaking on stages for sure.
Mhm.
And I see myself writing my book. I've
Cool.
always had chapters, half put together ideas. And my friends, for as long as I can remember, my one cousin's always like, "One day, Erin, this is going to be a chapter for the book because your 20s were something else." So, but I have a heart for, sharing what I just don't want people to struggle as long as I did. I think that's part of it.
Mm.
Because I got in with just masking myself so much that I put myself out there for everyone else. And to the point where I was actually with an addict, a drug addict as my boyfriend before my husband. And I was just looking after him because that was my intrinsic gratification, right? It was just the serving and wanting validation and not knowing that it was just all this confidence that was missing. I want to help women on that standpoint with it and unshackle from shame. That has always been a tagline that I've had in my head. I'm like, I don't know if it makes sense, but if you don't have shame running the game anymore, if you're in charge and owning your space, I mean, you are all about empowerment, that's where I want to go. So yeah, and I'm also doing a collaborative coaching program with my coach. He's out of Boston, Matt Travis, and my bestie Katie Suick. Like I really believe in collaborations. I want to host summits. I mean, I got a lot to do.
Wow.
And my kids are older now, so I got to say this is they're more self-sufficient in a lot of ways. So I'm not tagged down with that much anymore. And I just really want to stand for women and be able to have that voice that you don't have to stay. I basically say this, ADHD doesn't have to be your prison sentence.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, Megan. And then we are going to end our podcast. Go ahead, Megan.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Erin, for sharing with us, and so good to have you here. So I just want to do a round off with this. So there's this saying there, I don't know if you've heard it. It says diplomacy is telling someone to go to hell in such a way that they look forward to the trip, right? And so what I got from my connection with Erin, it was about 3-4 years ago when we first connected, and I always suspected that I was ADD. It was just one of those things, but for me, I was one of those people that went, it makes me stand out. I love what it allows me to do because my business, my marketing business, is basically based on the fact that I've got tech creative running in the same space, right? And that's what it taught me to embrace. But that's what I can actually attest to in terms of speaking to Erin about that space. If you are one of those people who needs to reach out to someone like Erin in that space, I would suggest you do it because the humility and the humanity with which she handles the situation. I remember her telling me, let's have a conversation around your concerns and bring me a list of things you think might be indicators. And I went in there with like pages, reams. I just wrote things down. This is like a whole lifetime of stuff that I could think about. And we went through it, and she sat patiently nodding her head and going, yes, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. And then she came with the openness. And do you do that? And do you do that? And I went, yes, I do. Yes, I do. And the list just kept getting longer and longer. And eventually I was so happy. Never been properly diagnosed, but it's that confirmation, that verification that, yes, you are not crazy. It is the way in which she deals with the conversation that I enjoyed. And so when I went to my best friend after having spoken to Erin and my husband, both of them looked like I was completely nuts because I was over the moon. But it was never an issue for me in the sense of it wasn't something that I wanted to get rid of. But I was still so happy about the fact that somebody got me on that level so deeply that now I can say, I can put these pages aside and I can just get on with my life. And that's pretty much what I've been doing. So, Erin, for anyone that wants to reach out to you, I would fully encourage it because I think there really is a way of handling these things, these conversations. And I think that is really a big part of somebody's journey and how they accept it, how they move forward in that space. So I just want to commend Erin on that, and then make sure that you and I hook up again. Erin, we do need to chat. All right.
Beautiful.
Thank you,
Absolutely
Megan.
Beautiful. Wow. What an excellent episode. And guys, the biggest piece around ADHD is that you are empowered in your life, that you literally step into your power because it is a power for you. It can be a power for you. And that is why I was so excited to have you on here, because there are so many people out there that don't think they can be empowered in the space. And Erin, you absolutely have owned your power around all of it. And now making sure everyone else can have their power. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, guys, thank you so much for this episode. If you love these episodes, guys, please, please subscribe to our channel. Please share them with everyone. We are all over LinkedIn. We put these episodes out all over social media. Please, if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, please reach out to one of us and get on our schedule. You have a story. We give you a platform to be able to really and truly inspire so many other women out there. Okay. Guys, this is about thriving as women together. That's what this platform's all about. So please join us again. We do these on Mondays and Fridays, and we will see you in our next episode. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
There's no divide.